In the West, when two people get married, they make a choice. Maybe they move into his place. Maybe they move into hers. Maybe they buy somewhere completely new together. It's a negotiation. It's a partnership. Both people have equal say. In India, there is no negotiation. When a couple gets married, the wife packs her bags, leaves her family home, and moves into her husband's house. Forever. She doesn't just move in. She's absorbed into his family. She takes on his family's name, his family's values, his family's rules, and she becomes the property, legally and culturally, of his family. This isn't a modern choice. This is a 5,000-year-old tradition so deeply embedded in Indian culture that most Indian women expect it. They've been raised their whole lives knowing, one day, you will leave your home and live with your husband's parents. So why? Why is it only the wife who moves? Why not the husband? What is the actual reason behind this ancient tradition? The answer reveals everything about how Indian families, property, and women have been controlled for millennia. To understand this, you need to understand what a daughter represents in an Indian family. In traditional Indian culture, a daughter is temporary. She's not a permanent member of her birth family. She's a guest, an investment. Her parents raise her, feed her, educate her, and then they give her away. That phrase, give her away, it's not just ceremonial language, it's literal. In traditional Indian marriages, the bride's parents literally hand their daughter over to the groom's family. It's called Kanyadan, which means gift of a virgin. The daughter leaves, she becomes part of her husband's family, and her birth family? They have no further claim on her, no further responsibility. She's gone. But a son is different. A son is permanent. He's the future of the family. He's the one who will inherit the house, inherit the land, inherit the family business. He's the one who will take care of his elderly parents. So a son never leaves. He stays, and when he gets married, he brings a wife into his home, not to be his equal, but to be absorbed into his family structure. The wife, in essence, replaces the son's mother. She becomes the new caretaker of the household. She cooks, cleans, manages the house, and eventually produces the next generation of sons. Now, here's where it gets darker. Property. In traditional Hindu law, women were not allowed to own property. Land belonged to men. Houses belonged to men. Money belonged to men. A daughter, therefore, was a liability. She couldn't inherit. She couldn't earn money to support herself. So her parents had to get rid of her, marry her off, and pay a dowry to do it. The dowry was essentially a payment. The groom's family was saying, "We're taking your daughter off your hands. In exchange, you pay us money, gold, or land." This is why in Indian culture, having a daughter was seen as bad luck. You had to spend money to marry her off. You had to pay a dowry, and then she was gone. But a son? A son was valuable. A son could inherit property. A son could earn money. A son would take care of you in old age. So when a son got married, he didn't leave home. The wife came to him, and legally, she had no claim on the property. The property remained in the son's name or the father's name, but never the wife's. This is why the wife moves, not because of romance, not because of tradition for tradition's sake, but because of property rights. Because women couldn't own anything. They couldn't afford to live anywhere except as dependents in a man's home. But there's another layer, patrilineality. In Indian culture, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian, there's an obsession with patrilines, family lines that pass through the father. Your family name comes from your father. Your caste comes from your father. Your inheritance comes from your father. A woman, by contrast, has no lineage. When she marries, she changes her name. She changes her identity. She becomes part of her husband's lineage. This is why a wife moves into her husband's home, because she's not marrying a man. She's marrying a family lineage. She's becoming a vessel to produce the next generation of sons who will carry that family line forward. Her body, her fertility, her identity, It all belongs to her husband's family now. This explains why daughters-in-law have so little power in Indian homes. They're not seen as wives or partners. They're seen as temporary members who exist to serve the family and produce heirs. And this explains why the daughter leaves her birth family completely. She's not just changing homes, she's changing families, changing identities, changing whose lineage she belongs to. Now, is this still happening in modern India? The answer is complicated. In cities, among educated, wealthy families, this is changing. More couples are buying their own homes. More women are keeping their own names. More men are moving to their wife's city for her career. But in villages, in traditional families, in orthodox communities, this tradition is still ironclad. Even in cities, the cultural expectation remains. When a woman gets married, people assume she'll move into her in-laws' home. If she doesn't, she's seen as selfish, as not honoring her husband's family. And most Indian women still change their names after marriage. They still take on their husband's family identity. So while the practice is softening in modern India, the underlying belief that a woman's identity and body belong to her husband's family is still deeply embedded. So here's the truth. A wife moves into the husband's family home not because it's romantic, not because it's tradition for tradition's sake. She moves because for 5,000 years, women in India had no property rights, no legal identity, and no independence. They were owned by their fathers, then owned by their husbands, then owned by their sons. Moving into the husband's home was never a choice. It was a consequence of being a woman in a society where women couldn't own anything. And even though laws have changed, even though women can now own property and have legal rights, this ancient practice persists. Because some traditions run so deep that they become invisible. They stop being rules and start being identity. For millions of Indian women, moving into their husband's family home isn't oppression. It's just how things are. It's normal. It's expected. And that's the most powerful tradition of all. One that people stop questioning because they've never known anything else. So the next time you see an Indian bride move into her husband's family home, remember, you're not seeing romance. You're seeing 5,000 years of history where women were property. And you're watching to see if that ever changes. If you found this fascinating, subscribe to East Explained for more deep dives into the hidden traditions of Asian cultures, and drop a comment below. Tell me, what's a tradition in your culture that seems normal until you really think about it?